Hello and welcome back. Today I wanted to go a little bit more into depth when it comes to, I guess, the detachment of divine feminine. Once the divine feminine is in that state, because we as divine feminines are very much used to carrying the mental and the emotional load of our connection with our twin. So because of that, we're very much used to, I guess I could say, certain level of intensity, right? Whether, like, no matter in which way it manifests, but it is intense, right? Intense emotions, no matter what frequency, whether it's anger or sadness or hurt or pain or feelings of betrayal or just heaviness that we have been told over and over again that we are here to transmute. And that is of course true, but there comes a moment where the detachment is so so high. I'm hearing, well, there comes a moment when the divine feminine says basically enough. The twin flame journey up to that point is so extremely taxing and so heavy, and it's absolutely taking all of it, our like life force out of us. Basically, that's kind of like how I would describe it, because it is so heavy. It basically brings us to our knees. It brings us to a moment where we kind of have to face, I'm hearing with reality, but with the reality as in the human reality. So from a higher perspective, we know the divine truth, right? We know why we are here and what is going on. We understand all of these reasons and all of these things on soul level, right? And we are first kind of taught to, in a way, bypass the human experience and not to kind of minimize it. So not like trying to explain in a very nice, positive, spiritual terms what is happening to us, if you will, or with us. But it's basically kind of forcing us to learn to look at our experiences, whether those experiences are with our twin or not. It's just that it teaches us to look at everything from a higher perspective, right? So you're not supposed to spiritually bypass at all, but in a way, for a certain amount of time or for a period of your journey, you kind of are bypassing what the human has experienced, right? So you are basically trying to learn to look at all the hurt from a higher perspective, that, oh, you as a soul have planned it, and there are all these soul contracts with other beings, and everything is done for everybody's highest good, right? And it's for your ascension, and you're here to learn, right? And then comes a moment where all of that gets so heavy, because what the divine feminine has been doing up to that point is kind of spiritually bypassing what or like on the human level, what she has experienced, right? And so once you, as the divine feminine, if you're a divine feminine listening to it, if you're not, it doesn't matter. All divine masculines are welcome. I'm here to kind of teach what is being passed down on to me, to share some lights onto the things that people are going through and help. So once the divine feminine is basically brought down to her knees, where she is so overwhelmed by the intensity of the journey, the mental and emotional load, and the energetic load of, well, everything is energy, right? But everything just gets so heavy that the feminine polarity, like on a higher self level, basically says that's enough. The feminine has no more energy to carry all of that burden. Basically, the feminine is so sick of kind of being alone within the connection, or feeling very much isolated and alone in the connection, because yes, she is private to a lot of the divine truth, of course, that has been needed on her journey, on her individual journey, but she feels very isolated because the masculine is avoiding all of that heaviness and all of that sacredness too, because it's so much, because it's so intense for the masculine twin, that the feminine is very much left to carry it all. And because the feminine is very nurturing and very compassionate, there's a lot of compassion involved in that. And because the feminine understands also what the masculine is going through, like how the connection kind of affects the masculine, the feminine kind of feels like, well, then I will continue carrying it, and then like I will show the way, I will show the masculine that there's a different way, and like that will have to kind of give or make any change, right? So something like that is going to give some result, I guess I could say. And the thing is that once you are basically forced onto your knees, it is very much too much of everything, because you have basically your own shit to deal with, right? So you have your own karmic patterns and the karmic debt that you are meant to, or you were meant to clear, and you have been at it for years probably, and you're doing very good, right? There's a lot of these karmic patterns that you have closed out, right? And there's a lot of stuff happening in your 3D reality, a lot of happening to you energetically, a lot of happening to you like on an emotional level and mental level. And then on top of that, there is the heaviness of the connection, like all this knowledge, and the fact that no matter how much energy you have invested into the connection, it kind of feels that nothing is really happening. And this is something that can be extremely discouraging. And this is why I wanted to record this podcast, because when that was happening to me, I have touched upon that topic before in my other videos. You're very welcome to watch them, of course, if you wish to, but it's quite confusing because the feminine has spent years pouring all of her energy, basically like all of her free time, and making time into this connection, into healing, into carrying the connection for both herself and her twin. And there's so much that the feminine has invested, and it feels like, or it looks like in her reality, that that kind of did not give any result, right? And so it is extremely discouraging, because there comes a moment where the divine kind of it, I guess I could say, our perspective on it kind of shifts, because we are so depleted. We have given, I say we because I am also a divine feminine, so the divine feminine has given so much of herself and poured so much time and energy, basically of her own resources, into this connection. And then it kind of hits her that, well, once the divine kind of shifts our perspective, or like lifts the veil, however you wish to call that, right? Once the divine feminine aligns with that truth, we kind of realize that no matter how you try to look at it, or no matter how the feminine tries to look at it, what she sees is that despite all that work, her masculine may still be doing exactly the same thing that the masculine has always been doing, despite all of this awakening that he has been going through. Because it is not that the masculine has been standing still. It's not that the masculine has been completely oblivious to certain things. It's just that they run away from it all because it's so extremely overwhelming. And because that intensity with the feminine brings up within them all of these cycles and patterns within them, basically, right? So the feminine kind of mirrors to the masculine what is still within him. It gets too much, because it's basically that really profound, really intense connection with the feminine, and then on top of that, all of that triggering that is happening within him. And some masculines absolutely blame the feminine, kind of for like bringing those things out in them, or like she's the reason for all of these things happening, because none of this would happen if they didn't meet, and so on and so forth, right? So yes, sadly, that is kind of the reality, the human reality, I guess I can say, how a lot of times that kind of feels for the masculine. But despite the divine masculines running away, and avoidance and distractions and so on, right? The masculine is still moving forward, just as we are. And I have spoken about this before, that it's not that one aspect of the soul is moving forward and the other one is sitting still. It's just that they're working in parallel. It's just that the feminine polarity, she's in a certain way ahead of the masculine, because she is leading the way, let's say energetically wise, and then the masculine is still doing things, but he is going through the lessons that the feminine has already completed like many lifetimes ago, right? So he's catching up. I don't like really saying it, because it should not be looked at in a way where, oh, the feminine is better, or she's further ahead than the masculine, and because of that she's better. No, it's just that the masculine polarity takes upon himself much more to work through, and so even though they start together, let's say at the same time, the masculine has much more to work through compared to the feminine. I'm not saying one of them or either of them has it worse or better, because it's not about that. It's just what is happening, right? And what I was saying was that once that moment comes and the feminine kind of is basically, she's done. So the feminine is like, no more, that is enough, throwing in the towel, I hear, because it kind of feels like this. It is very much like a wake-up call, like a slap in the face, reality check, however you wish to call that. Basically, the divine feminine, because the veil is lifted and she has aligned herself with a certain truth, now she sees that, well, despite all of her love and her compassion and understanding and patience towards her masculine, despite all of the work that she has put into the connection, into making him safe and making sure that he knows that he's safe with her, because this is what we do. The masculine still chooses the things that he has been choosing, as in, if the masculine has been distracting himself, he's still distracting himself. He has been choosing, let's say, the karmic life, the karmic patterns, places, situations, partners, relationships, doesn't matter, friendships, right? They still do that. And it just becomes too much. Basically, like, I'm being shown like let's say a bathtub that is being filled up with water, and then there's suddenly so much water that it starts spilling out. The water is basically overflowing. It's just too much. And the feminine is like, no more. The illusion basically is gone. And this is what I wanted to kind of talk about, because what is happening then I can say like this: what's ended in that moment when the feminine feels like, I am done, I am like done with overgiving and investing into this connection and doing all of this work and hoping and, let's say, waiting. Well, none of us should be waiting ever, but like, I am done basically kind of investing into the connection, because I am the only one investing into this connection. I am not saying that this is how it actually is, but what I'm saying is that this is how it is energetically, because the divine masculine at that point is still running away. He's still avoiding, he's still distracting. And so all of that energetic weight of the connection is on the feminine's shoulders. And then it becomes too much. And she says, okay, I'm done. I am just putting it down. I am letting it all go. I am giving it to source, right? You're surrendering. And what happens then, that all of the, well, these are actually suppressed feelings, but all of the feelings that the feminine has not felt up until now, that are very low vibrational, very justified, but still, it's heavy energy, it's low vibrational emotions, low frequency emotions, dense energy, right? All of those things come up to the surface, which is resentment, betrayal, hurt. There's so much anger, and it's so much bigger than just this lifetime, because what happens is the illusion, or basically what the feminine in the chasing energy, right, in the waiting energy, and the like overgiving and investing energy, that she has been, so a feminine like that is basically feeding into an illusion of her divine masculine that she has projected upon the human because of what she knows on a soul level. And it's not that it's wrong, it's just that something that needs to be changed, because the feminine has already learned a lesson. She already learned how to look at things like from a higher perspective, on a soul level, from a soul level, whether it comes to her own reality, herself, right, the masculine, or anybody else that she comes across. But now it's time to kind of go back to the human experience and face all of these feelings. So every single reaction that the feminine, let's say the human self would have, experiencing every single thing that the divine feminine has gone through. So every time she got hurt and she would get sad or angry or hurt, or there would be some sort of resentment, right? All of that has not come into the surface because it wasn't time for that. All of that has been dormant, suppressed within herself, and now it's coming up. So, well, I'm going to speak directly to the divine feminine because I really feel guided to. Divine feminine, if you're listening to it and you kind of like recognize what I'm trying to say here, and you feel like, well, this is me, right? There came a moment where I was so sick of this journey, so sick of my divine masculine, so sick of everything that has happened, and I feel very hurt and very angry about everything, and I am raging and I feel grief because basically like this could have been so beautiful and now I lost it. None of it is a sign of you failing, which I just want to kind of like make sure to say, because it's really important that you do not give yourself any kind of hard time by thinking that, oh, I maybe failed because here I am the divine feminine, I am the loyal one, right? I am the faithful one, I am the one that has been committed, I have been carrying this journey for such a long time, for so many years, and I have been working on myself and all of these things, right? It is not that you have failed, it's just that your journey has kind of advanced to the next step, which is, yes, now you have remembered who you are. You have remembered that you should always keep in mind that everything that is happening around you is happening for your sake, and that basically you're not to take to heart the things that are happening if they're hurtful, or let's say what we humans would perhaps categorize as negative. You should kind of look at everything from a soul's perspective and have that like at the back of your head. However, now is the time to kind of come back to our human bodies and start working with it, because our human vessels store a lot of that hurt, that really dense energy, and we're carrying that burden. So once you put down the burden of of the connection with your twin, that you are actually meant to be sharing that burden, that weight, the importance of this connection with your twin, which you have been doing by yourself. Once you put that down, all of those suppressed feelings that you normally actually had on your journey right to up to this moment, you know, every single time your masculine did something and you got hurt, whether it was directly meant to hurt you or somewhat indirectly, no matter what, all of this anger, this sadness, this grief and rage and resentment and disgust, it is right. You have not done anything wrong. What can be very confusing for you is that basically it feels like you went from this very it's silly thing to call it this way, but I'm gonna do it anyway because this is what I'm hearing. You basically went from like super angelic, soft-hearted, compassionate, nurturing being to being like bitter and very cold and very calculating. Not in the way where you are treating others this way, but when you think back to what you have been through with your masculine and you look at your journey with your masculine, you see, without romanticizing either your masculine or this beautiful destiny that you have with your twin, that illusion is gone, and you only now seeing the true human that is the other you, your masculine, all of his decision, and you realize that no amount of your compassion or your love or your understanding, I guess, or your patience and so on and so forth, like, right, all the things that you as the feminine had to learn on this journey, none of that is enough to kind of, let's say, cover or take or to make what the divine masculine actually has done to you. And if you're a divine masculine listening to it, please give me a chance to explain, because I am by no means hating on any masculines. What I'm trying to say is that the feminine, so us feminines kind of find ourselves in a space where, or like in an energy where we still feel the love, but because we're now, our nervous system is so balanced that we are basically running on neutral. So it's not like super intense or super exciting, it just is, because that is a part of us. But what comes up is a lot of resentment and a lot of hurt, and it is bigger than this lifetime, because actually you and your twin have been trying to come back and merge into one for many, many lifetimes. It's just that in this lifetime, you're actually doing it. So you're actually, let's say, managing, or that's not the right way to say it, but you actually are merging. But all of that baggage from previous incarnations and lifetimes where the separation was still going on, and the chasing and the running, as people call it, right? All of these patterns were still very much active. For as long as the pattern has been active, both of you have been getting hurt. It's just, and so at this time, all of that needs to be worked through, felt, and released. And this is what's happening to the divine feminine. And I wanted to very much record this podcast for you people, everybody, no matter whether you are the divine feminine or the divine masculine, because it's so disorienting. The divine feminine and the masculine, basically we are very much used to like intensity, and this is what we are, or what we have been told, that this is what love is, and this is what, like, excitement equals good, right? Or and like, oh, exciting life is really good, and it should be intense, and it should be a lot of feelings and this and that. No, this is being dysregulated. And so we go basically from that, we learn to calm ourselves, we kind of learn to balance out our energy and come into a neutral state where, yes, we still feel joy, we still may feel hurt, but all of these things pass very quickly, and we kind of go back to a very peaceful and serene calm, and that is our neutral. And from that, then the feminine is very much thrust into very negative emotions that have been trapped in her body for all of these lifetimes, where she has seen the divine masculine, her divine masculine, at every turn making the same decisions of actually, yes, rejecting her, right? Because the decision that the masculine makes, that, oh, I'm gonna avoid this, that is actually rejection. And I'm not saying this with any kind of hate or anything like this, just what it is. This is kind of the reality, the human reality of what we on this twin flame journey have been going through. And so all of these rejections, right? Because every single day, every single moment that the masculine has been making these decisions of, oh, I'm not going to think about it, or I'm going to focus on, all of these things that the masculine tends to distract himself with, it's all going to be different depending of who you are and what kind of journey you have designed for yourself, right? But every single moment, every single day, there has been actually like an action taken, which has been rejection, which has been, oh, okay, let me not think about it, let me try to forget, let me try to move on, this is too much. Or even if it has been like very, where the intention has been good, because a lot of masculines are struggling, probably all of them are, well, one of the things that they struggle with on their journey is or are feelings of unworthiness. And so a lot of them think that, oh, the feminine deserves better than what I am and who I am and what I can provide for her, right? Even if they think like, well, the feminine should find better or get better in life, that is also actually a conscious decision. Well, like unconscious conscious decision, right? Because it's unconscious, because this is the pattern, but conscious as in the moment the human actually made that decision. And all of that, whether it is just from us, the current lifetime or the other lifetimes, like let's say what I call the past incarnation, which are not the past, but the other incarnations and other like realities, all of that hits us. And there is so much of it that what we feel is kind of resentment towards our masculine. And I wanted to explain, because it feels very disorienting, because we go from like this very warm being, and every single time, we kind of like do our own thing in our own 3D circumstance. Our masculine is always with us. We feel him a lot of times. We kind of live our life as if the masculine would be already in our life, even though the physical body isn't. We feel our masculine. We know that he's a part of us, even if, like, from the human perspective, let's say he cannot hear. So we already embody that. We already live this way. And our, like, let's say day-to-day choices are very much influenced by that. So we go from that to suddenly feeling, what was it, Spirit? It slipped. The resentment, but also like, I cannot remember the word. It's gonna come back if it's important. But basically, we feel disgust towards what has happened. And in the beginning, it may be kind of difficult to pinpoint that disgust, like at what that is directed onto, I guess. This is why I wanted to speak about it, because it's only after a period of time that we as the feminines have been able to sit with it. We will be able to kind of look back and realize, like, wait, we actually did not resent our divine masculine, but we have very much resented and rejected the patterns that he was exhibiting. And this is kind of the whole gist of what I'm trying to say, that what happens is, for the divine feminine, the illusion breaks. The veil is, let's say, lifted, where it's no longer this huge destiny and, oh, we're divine beings. We are very, very much like slammed back to earth, basically, to the human experience. And we are being just reminded and bombarded of all the hurt and all the pain that our divine masculine has served us for lifetimes since our soul actually separated, or split, I should say. And for a long time, these things have been within us, but we have been suppressing them because of, like, let's say, the feminine nature, which is like very compassionate and very loving, very nurturing. And we very much believe that if we show the masculine, like, that the environment with us, I guess, or the environment that we are part of, is very safe, where the masculine can very much take off all these masks, and he can kind of like relax and be himself, that is going to help him to kind of like, let's say, lose the mantle. So basically kind of like say, okay, enough, I do not want to pretend anymore, I do not want to run away from things anymore, let me like face these things, right, and do all the things. This is what we believe, and this is what we hope, because this is kind of what is coded into us when we take this journey, or once we decide on this journey. And so we try very, very hard to go about this way, loving and showing our masculine that, we're safe, and we have created very safe environment for the masculine, and they do know it, they do feel it, but it's so overwhelming, it is so scary. I'm not gonna get into that part now, but it is so much that they still choose to run, right? And then for a long time, the feminine is gonna continue pouring into the connection because she does not wish to lose it. Because, like, what a blessing having a human experience and then realizing that there's a person that is you, your best friend, your best lover, just everything you have ever been looking for. And it's just amazing, it's so profound, and nobody else has ever felt even like a fraction of similar way, and nobody ever will, right? And we understand the importance of it, and so we do not wish to lose that. And so we kind of overgive and we pour into the connection, and then basically comes a moment where we have enough. We do not wish to do that anymore because we have not gotten anything in return. There has, like, the connection still, of course, is active, and we feel that, like, we are very much part of it. We still feel, I have talked about this, that the feminine kind of embodies the masculine once the merging starts, and it's kind of happening like more and more. The feminine, confirmation verb, the feminine will embody more and more the masculine energy, and it kind of feels very weird because it's suddenly like you have two different personalities, and one personality likes certain things and the other one doesn't, and so on and so forth. And you, or the feminine, kind of learns to stabilize that and get used to it, basically, because this is how we have been when we have been whole. And then basically, like a slam dunk, comes all of this negativity, and we're very much, what I would say, and this is something that I myself have experienced. Well, if you're listening to it, if you're still here, then this is for you as well. For me, it was very much, I felt very cut off from the divine in a way where before I would have like a direct link to my higher self, and Like I could ask a question and I would have an answer. Now it's very much quiet. And that is because I'm meant to kind of sit with my human self and what my human self has had in storage, basically. So what is coming up. And then because of all of this resentment and hurt and pain and grief and all of these things, basically you could even say as the divine feminine that you are starting to dislike your divine masculine. That is another thing that is very confusing, because you still how can I say it? You're still influenced by the journey, and so you still feel the longing or grief or sadness or love towards your masculine, but you kind of dislike his person. And this is another reason that is like probably the biggest reason why I wanted to record this, because the divine feminine starts disliking her masculine. It has nothing to do with like the divine feminine no longer loves her masculine, or that the journey has ended or it's broken. No. It is the divine feminine has come so far ahead. Well, no. The divine feminine basically have healed everything that she was meant to heal. She has broken and closed out all of these karmic cycles that she has been kind of perpetuating for many, many lifetimes. She has attained her peace. She has attained her sovereignty. And because of that, there is so much density that she has shed from her being. So from her physical, emotional, pain body, mental body, and all of these things, right? Because we are light beings. So there's so much more light within her that once she is there, because she basically ascends higher up in frequency, right? Her frequency is rising. She comes to a certain level, and then she has still, I guess, the ability to kind of look back, not too much back. I probably can talk about it another time, but she can look back at what she has gone through with the divine masculine and all of her being, her physical body right now in this moment, her physical body, her heart, her soul, her mind, like all of her energetic self, all of her is rejecting the old masculine. And what I mean by that, what we are then rejecting is not the person. It's not that we are rejecting the divine masculine. It's not that we dislike him. It's not that we don't love him anymore or something like this. It's just that we have healed so much that we are rejecting the old self, which is the old divine masculine self that has been very much weighted down by all the karmic debt and karmic weight. So all of these karmic patterns and the avoidance and all of the things that, let's say, each one of yours masculines have been doing and exhibiting, right? And showing you over and over again. This is what the feminine rejects. And that is the moment, like once the feminine feels that, okay, I am done. I have had enough of this journey. I have had enough of my masculine being over there, doing his own thing, and basically doing everything they can to kind of avoid me as the feminine and the journey. She's sick of it. She's putting it down. She's rejecting that old masculine. And what happens now is that the energetic, okay, I hear signature. Sure, let's go with that. So the energetic signature or the balance of the connection switches, because the feminine has been carrying the weight of it for so many lifetimes for both of them. Her, or like that part of her journey is done. That weight is now being put onto the masculine shoulders, because she's done. She's done because she has risen in frequency so much that she has shed all of these karmic patterns and all of that weight. She's no longer self-sabotaging. She's choosing herself. She's sovereign. She loves her masculine very much, but she does not need him in her human reality. And she knows very much that he's a part of her, so he's always there with her. She no longer needs saving from him. She no longer needs, let's say, physical reunion, right? She just is done, because she is finally healed enough to see that she has been pouring into a connection and not getting anything back. So all of that heavy weight basically now falls onto the masculine. And it's only now that the masculine truly feels the weight of the journey, and he can finally no longer actually truly run away or distract himself from every single thing that he has been distracting himself and running away from for all of these lifetimes. It is now that he feels the vacuum that the feminine's energy left. Even the union energy isn't there anymore. And so he does not have that, let's say, emotional cushioning or like energetic cushioning. Basically, it's almost like I'm hearing loss. So it's like he then experiences or feels the loss of the connection and the feminine. Okay, I'm not being told more. So it's only then, because the feminine is actually no longer putting even an ounce of her energy into the connection. She's pouring all of it into herself and into the things that give back to her. And because the connection and the divine masculine has not been giving back to her, she's no longer pouring energy into the connection or him. And something that has been shown to me as soon as today, and this is why I'm recording, because I found that this was very much profound, and I wanted to like kind of send it forward to everybody else that this message is going to get to, that the divine feminine is rejecting the divine masculine now, but not in the way that, oh, she doesn't want him anymore. What she doesn't want anymore is his old self and his old patterns. That is what they kind of call this is kind of what people call the rise of the divine masculine. It is because he needs to rise into his true self. So he needs to face everything that he needs to be facing, that he needs to face. He needs to heal everything, and he needs to finally make the decisions constantly, small and big ones, to choose the connection. He's just no longer allowed to avoid. This is what I'm hearing. So it is actually only in the moment where the divine feminine basically gives up on the connection with her masculine that the divine masculine can actually start the work that the divine feminine has been wanting him and working so hard for him to start doing. So what the divine feminine did not achieve by like building and inviting her masculine into this very safe environment, very safe haven, like all of that softness did not help the divine masculine because it was never meant to, because that was a pattern that the feminine had to break, because the feminine has been overgiving and over pouring into a connection that has not been given back to her. And it's everything, of course, by design. And once she's done with that, once she has enough of it, she's sick of it, she's just so depleted that there is no more to give. And she realizes that all this time, no matter how long you have been on the journey, the masculine had all of that time to start making different choices, and he hasn't. And so she puts down the burden, she puts down the journey, basically. She lets that go, and she puts all of that energy back into herself. And the rejection, because the thing is, the divine feminine might have been shown, let's say, union energy and the reunion, the permanent reunion to some degree. But as she's healing, a lot of, let's say, the past with her masculine is kind of disappearing because she has been letting go and releasing these things, right? So these timelines do no longer exist. But there's this, basically, I could say as simple as possible that the feminine only remembers the patterns in the masculine and not these moments where the feminine kind of saw the higher self of the masculine. And so that is what she rejects. She's no longer willing to self-sacrifice and self-sabotage and betray herself for the sake of the masculine, for the sake of the connection. All of that patience and compassion and understanding and care and love, all of those things that she has been pouring onto the masculine, that the masculine not only took for granted, but also didn't reciprocate in any way and rejected. That was my kitty, if you're hearing him. All of that she's now pouring into herself because her masculine didn't. And what she's rejecting is that old self, these old patterns of him running away and kind of distracting himself and finding excuses as to why not this connection, why not the divine feminine, and so on and so forth. So again, this may be very confusing for a divine feminine to kind of start feeling that, oh wait, I kind of want nothing to do with the masculine. It's not really that, even though in the beginning it kind of may feel this way, up until the moment you kind of realize that, well, it's not the person, but it's the behavior. It's not the person that the feminine feels like, oh, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. It's, I want nothing to do with the choices that person made. There's no place in my life for anybody that acts this way, that makes these kind of choices, that treats me and our connection this way. And that is the whole point. So no matter how scary that may seem to the feminine, or weird, because it's basically the other side of the coin, we went from this super warm and very much inviting towards our masculine being to like, oh hell no, stay the hell away for as long as you are the way you are. And I really hope that I have explained it in a way that will help whoever is listening to it, because it was quite, even though I will say, I was going to say that it was very confusing to me, even though I kind of knew that it's not really that simple when I have felt all of these really heavy emotions towards my own masculine, that it cannot be that simple that, oh, I resent him or I hate him or something like this. No. But still, it has been very much helpful for me to also get that confirmation for myself that, okay, so this is kind of what it is. It's nothing strange. It's actually part of the journey for the feminine to arrive at a point where she's just like, oh hell no, that is just not going to happen in my life. No more of that. I've had enough from like everybody else, and on top of that, my divine masculine. So it's nothing strange. I just kind of really cannot stress that enough. Do not give yourself any kind of hard time. Have compassion and understanding, and remember, no matter what, because I'm pretty sure like the confirmation comes after a while. So we kind of are in a certain energy, and then like a certain amount of time later, we get the confirmation of what that has been. Trust yourself. Whatever you're feeling is the right thing to be feeling. Whatever you feel like guided to do, it's actually the right thing to do. So thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you another time. Bye.